Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We are going to try this again. We're having a little difficulty issues, so I am so excited for this today. I'm going to be joining with Megan Mathers. She is a yoga teacher and embodied healing. How to be more gentle with yourself in 2024. And I feel like this is so important because I see this very often where it's like a lot of people get stuck in their head, right? And they are oftentimes kind of beating themselves up in their head and not being kind enough to themselves. So, we're going to be talking about how to be more gentle to yourselves, how to regulate your nervous system, and how that can help us to be more kind to ourselves. And we're just trying to get the tech here so that Megan can hop on live with us. So go ahead and just hang out for just a second and hopefully she can hop on here. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Oh, yay!
Is it working?
It's
Yes,
working
we did
here. Okay.
it.
We made it. Yay.
Awesome.
Love your new hair, by the
Oh,
way.
thank you. Yes.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and sorry for the technical difficulties. And yeah, so let's just go ahead and hop right in here. We're going to be talking about how to be more gentle to yourself in 2024. And this is such an important topic. So I'm so excited about this. And I'm so excited to hear your wisdom and expertise. So, first of all, do you just want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you help people with, what you do?
Sure. Yeah, I would love to. So my name is Megan. I'm here in my tiny house in the Pacific Northwest. Um, I am a yoga teacher and an embodied healing coach. What the heck is that, right? So um, embodiment is so important when it comes to healing, and we really can be our own healers when we are connected to our bodies. But we live in a society that keeps us very disconnected and very living up here in our head and disconnected from our senses and from our felt sense in our body and pleasure. So I help people get back into their bodies, learn the wisdom of their own bodies so they are empowered to be their own healer. So that's what I'm passionate about. It's what my journey has been, and I've learned a lot. And I'm really excited to be here. Thank you, Adensi, for organizing this and setting it up. And yeah, I'm stoked.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's so important to get into our bodies today because, like you said, there's so much going on. It's so easy to get disconnected. So, first of all, let's just start with simple. How would you suggest to be more gentle to ourselves this year? And how can we kind of start being into that more just kind of peaceful flow with ourselves rather than getting so stuck up in our heads?
Mm-hmm. I think for me, it's been really helpful to first recognize that we are in a society and dominant culture that glorifies this hustle and grind mentality. And it's been ingrained in most of us that we have to earn rest or we have to earn pleasure or play or earn things. And our whole society is kind of set up to reflect this. Like we have to work to earn retirement. And in retirement, we've earned rest, we've earned play, we've earned hobbies that we want, we've earned, a lifestyle that we want. And um, I think recognizing that and coming to a place where maybe you redefine your relationship with productivity and what productivity means. We live in a masculine dominated society, and I don't mean gender when I talk about masculine and feminine here, but the masculine is very do, do, do. It's very action oriented and that logical sense. And we've completely disconnected from the feminine energy, which is that embodiment and sensuality, creativity, play, pleasure. And this connects a lot to the nervous system, which we'll get into a little bit later. But um, where I'm going with this is we need a balance of both. And recognizing what that balance is for each of us is so important. So I think being gentle with ourselves is recognizing, one, we're in a society that glorifies this masculine energy, but we can't show up for this masculine energy, this action orientated drive without first nourishing ourselves, being embodied, knowing who we are, feeling safe in our bodies, and having presence, um, being fulfilled with creativity and nourishment, pleasure, all of these things. Um, and for me, I really had to remind myself whenever I would take a break and go for a walk with my dog. This whole time I had these shoulds bothering me, like I should be doing this, I should be doing that. What am I doing? I'm wasting time. Or if I napped, I felt this looming guilt, that I should be productive. But I had to reframe my mind and think, wait a minute, my self-care is productive. Like, where did I get this idea that it's not? I can't show up if I'm not taking care of myself. I can't do what I want to do or be who I want to be if I don't do this. So, first, I think we need to reframe our relationship with productivity and what that looks like for us.
I love that so much. Yeah, that's been a huge thing for me this past year, I would say, is like redefining just what you said, like what does success look like for me and what do I want my workflow to look like? And I've realized I flow a lot. I'm very kind of, in my feminine, but in the sense that I flow with where my desires kind of pull me, but also learning to bring in that masculine energy too, of still being like consistent in showing up. So it's for me, it's been huge to kind of find that balance lately and realize that it is okay to flow. It is beautiful to only work, a couple hours a day and be productive in that. And then, as you said, to like be able to rest. It's actually brought up something I remember. It was a couple months ago. I was just about to launch a coaching program, and I was literally like, okay, I'm launching this tomorrow. I'd already put posts up like, hey, so guys, something's coming. I'm launching something tomorrow. And I realized like that day that I needed to take a break before I could launch. So I took a week off, and I realized I'd put so much energy into creating the program that I was like, okay, now I need to take a break, breathe, because then launching the program is a whole nother level of energy as well. And I remember telling my partner about this. I was like, okay, I've got to take a break for a week. And he's very in his masculine energy. And he's like, what do you mean? He couldn't wrap his head around it. So it was beautiful to just be able to realize, okay, I can take a break. I don't have to just boom, 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 right to the next thing. And then therefore I was able to launch that program so much more refreshed and so much more centered and put so much more into it. So yeah, I absolutely love that. And being able to, I love to, like as a soul purpose coach too, what I do is like I help people get aligned with what are their true desires, right? So a lot of it is with being kind to ourselves is really tuning into what is our definition of success, what is our definition of what we want our work life balance to look like, and really just regardless of what society says our friends are doing, regardless of what anyone says. So okay, I love that so much. So if we're talking about, I know you're like a nervous system expert, so let's talk about getting to the nervous system. So how can we regulate our nervous system? Like, how does regulating our nervous system help us to be more kind to ourselves?
Yeah, there's so much to talk about here. And I want to start with, again, this idea of masculine and feminine and needing a balance of both. And the nervous system connects to, I mean, it's our entire body, and it really impacts the endocrine system, which is our hormones. And hormones, we know that our hormones fluctuate and have cycles throughout the day, have cycles throughout the month if you were born with a uterus. And so there's a lot at play here. So we operate on a circadian rhythm, which is a 24-hour period, and we have hormones that help our energy flow through a period like that. And that's this masculine society expects everyone to show up like that every day, the same, to show up with all the energy to push through. But if you were born with a uterus, you know that we don't have the same energy every day. We also have the infradian rhythm that impacts our hormones as well, which reflects the lunar cycle, which is roughly a 28 to 34-day period, depending on your own cycle. And so we have that flow, right? And we're so disconnected, but I'm trying to like gather all of these thoughts. I have so many words. So we have two main operating systems with our nervous systems, and there's a lot of systems inside of that, but it's really comprised of these two main parts, which is the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic is that masculine energy. It is, but it's also fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And I don't want to kind of demonize the sympathetic nervous system. Again, we need the sympathetic, we need to get things done, right? Mm-hmm. And then we have the parasympathetic nervous system, which is that rest, digest, recovery, and reproduce mode. This is the feminine, this is the embodiment, this is the rest, this is the creativity and the pleasure, the play. We can't access these parts of ourselves when we are stuck in fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode. And because of our stressful modern lives, and because of this society and culture, dominant culture that most of us are wrapped up in, we are on this mouse wheel of that sympathetic nervous system, and we don't know how to get off. And this throws our hormones out of whack. This keeps us disconnected from our bodies. It puts us in a survival mode. And we can't thrive when we're stuck over here. We need to be able to switch. Gathering my thoughts here. So in order to switch, we need to recognize when we're stuck. And repeat the question for me. I feel like I'm talking and I'm just going.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad, but no, I want to make sure I'm staying on track.
Yeah, no, this is great. Well, it helps us to better understand too, like the different states. So it's very, very helpful. So how can regulating our nervous system help us to be more kind to ourselves and gentle to ourselves? How does that play into being gentle to ourselves?
Yes. We have to move out of the survival state into this parasympathetic. And this place over here, when we can access play, we can access ease, abundance, pleasure, creativity, all of these things, we begin to, our body begins to regulate, our hormones begin to regulate. It's easier for us to step outside and recognize ruminating thoughts of fear, anxiety, doubt, and to better communicate, to recognize and establish boundaries. So you can see how we really need both, but we get stuck over here. And once we experience this, and we can do this mindfully, finding pockets of pleasure throughout our day. Maybe this is your first sip of coffee every morning or tea or whatever your jam is, but really being present for that and really mindfully being like, oh, this is so good. The taste, the body of it in my mouth, and how it warms my body as I drink it, the smell, the warm cup in my hand, and really being fully there for that. And when we start finding these pockets of pleasure and being present for them, then we recognize when there's a switch. We begin to recognize when an anxiety feeling comes into our body, when our chest tightens, when our breath gets shallow, when and when we recognize that switch, that awareness helps us to find that balance. That gives us a signal, okay, I'm spinning into survival mode. I need to bring myself back. And that really goes so far, really.
Yeah, that makes complete sense because then it's like when we're in that survival mode, literally it's almost like we can't think about anything else, right? Kind of is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Like we literally can't even access the pleasure or being kind to
Right.
ourselves or the joy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. Our When we do that, when we're in this evolutionarily speaking, we're not meant to be in the sympathetic nervous system for very long. And this shuts down our digestive system. So we start having, digestive issues. It removes blood from our brain into our limbs because that it's supposed to help us survive. It gives us energy to just keep going, but then we're not making the best decisions. We're not being able to communicate very well. It can make us very edgy and even irritable and hostile towards others, just have a bad attitude. And we've all been there. We've all been stressed and we're a little snappy with our partners and people. So it really is so important that we come back, finding those pockets of pleasure, coming back to our breath, moving out of our head and into our bodies, and making sure that we are doing that. It's so important, not only for us, but for the people around us. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. So, what would you say? What are some very just like practical ways that we can get out of that survival and just something that's really, practical that we could do, start today or something that would help us to move out of that survival so that we can be more kind to ourselves?
I think the most effective and important tool that we all have is our breath. And the breath anchors us in the present, and it also helps anchor us into our bodies. And our breath can shift our nervous system into that state of rest, digest, recovery. So, breath practice, and for that slowing down, because there's all kinds of breath practices, some to energize and some to relax and restore, but slowing it down, um, coherent breathing. You can count the inhales, notice it, being that present for it, and slow exhales. If you make your exhales longer than your inhales, this really helps activate that parasympathetic nervous system. So that's a really easy way have we have access to all the time. Wherever we are, whatever we're doing, we can access our breath, and we can mindfully come back to extend our exhales and make a conscious shift. Another really effective thing that we can do is to meditate. And meditation goes so far, and it doesn't take a lot, 3 to 5 minutes, and finding that consistency, because it's the consistency that really makes a difference and can really help you find those mindful moments, those pockets of pleasure throughout the day. And it helps you recognize all of these shifts within your system. If we can't hear the wisdom of our body, it's really hard to know what we need. It's really hard to recognize negative thought loops, and to change those, to recognize, like, I see you, but that's not true. And coming back to rewiring an affirmation or something positive, something kind, something that is true. Um, those are probably my top two: meditation and breath.
I love that. Yeah, that's so simple too because we can consciously we can go to that at any time at any point in the day too, so I feel like that's a beautiful place to start. I feel like for me one of the biggest things with meditation, like that meditation has helped me with, is it is creating that space, in my thoughts. And it really helps me to, like you were just talking about, recognize, when I'm not being so nice to myself. There's just more, rather than going, how do I want to say, going emotionally into thoughts negative thoughts, there's more of this space in between those, me and those negative thoughts. And meditation has really helped me to create that space and recognize, that, okay, these aren't me. I'm aware that they're here, but it doesn't mean I have to emotionally dive into them and let them consume me, right? I feel like
Yes.
that's been huge for me with meditation. Um, and yeah, again, I love what you said too about it's like those negative thoughts, they really aren't us. So it's like anytime we're beating ourselves up and not being kind to ourselves, it's like those thoughts aren't even really us. Like at our core, we are these beautiful light beings full of love and kindness, So it's oftentimes there's something to be healed in those negative thoughts, but it doesn't mean that we have to fully believe it and emotionally go into it.
Yeah. Something that I heard that helped me, this idea is that our brain thinks just like our heart beats. And so it's our brain's job to think, and I like this idea of separating yourself and observing the thought and not getting swept up into it, not getting pulled onto the mouse wheel with it. Um, yeah, wow. I have so many thoughts and I cannot like keep track of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much here. I mean, we could talk about this all day, literally.
Yeah, so
um,
good.
yeah, I just wanted to, one thought that brought up too is also, I think you talk about this some too, is really, being in tune with, my cycle. And also too, I've realized too, I've been a lot more in tune with my cycle the last year. And so I'm a lot, the week before my period, I'm so much more gentle on myself. I'm so much more aware. And I recognize, I know, that I'm probably going to have negative thoughts come up more than usual. Right.
Yes,
And so
yes,
that, for me, that week before my period, I'm like, I pretty much plan for being less productive.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I plan for, just resting more. I might eat a little bit more junk food. Like, and I know those thoughts are likely to come up the week before my period. So that's also been huge for me, and being more kind to myself is being more in tune with my cycle as well too.
yes, yes. Really, when it comes to knowing ourselves and knowing our bodies, it information knowledge is power. It is empowering. It gives us more insight, again, to that wisdom of our own bodies and what we really need. So it really is invaluable to know yourself, my animals here.
Aw.
um, yeah, whenever I really started recognizing my cycle and also the way that it reflects in nature, and realizing like, well, I am nature, recognizing that nothing in nature blooms and grows all the time, all year round, yet everything that needs to get done gets done, and that kind of gives me permission to have my inner winters, to have my inner falls, those cozy moments, and know that it's the inner spring and summer that I'm most productive, that I have the most energy, and even planning my schedule, like these are when I'm going to want to be social and really show up. And the other times I'm going to be more introverted and more planning mode or inspiration mode.
Yeah, I love that. I saw someone just posted a post the other day saying something along the lines, it had a picture of spring, like leaves were blooming and things like that, and they were saying this is the real start of the new year. And I was like,
Yes.
"Oh my gosh, that I never thought about it like that. Like we are nature." So too, if you're like, we have all this kind of almost pressure, or it's normal to have all these New Year's resolutions, right? And go, go, go. But we are nature, so it's probably more natural for us to kind of not be as active at this point in the year, and really when
Yeah.
spring comes, it's probably more natural for us to, move into that more action. I don't know much
Yes.
about that. I just saw a post about it, so if you have anything to add to that, feel free.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we reflect nature and nature reflects back to us our nature. Like we are a part of all of this. And I think that's why a lot of times New Year's resolutions fall short, because this is the time, this season of year in the northern hemisphere, for us to rest and for us to I mean, I love the ritual of New Year's, of reflecting, and I love the energy of the collective trying to move towards something better. I think that's fantastic, and I think a ritual of that is really helpful. But I think there we go. Um, then an action, at that time. I think it's more of really getting out your journal and reflecting, and then also recognizing how you want to feel this next year, and what does that look like in your finances, what does that look like in your career, what does that look like in your relationships. It's not this 30-day ab challenge or whatever, and like that's all good and great, to each their own, and so, and that works for some people, but I do feel that recognizing and honoring nature is so important, and when we don't, it leads to burnout. And not only in our physical nature does it lead to burnout, because we try to grow continuously throughout the entire year and do more and more each quarter. That's how the business and capitalism is all set up, and it's not sustainable, and we're really beginning to recognize that now, that it's not sustainable for us, and it's really not sustainable for our planet. We're not only burning out ourselves, but we're burning out our planet. And so it's more important than ever to come back to nature and let that reflect our own nature. It's like coming back home, coming back to our origin, coming back to our root. And I talk about this a lot in my programs, but that's what's sustainable, and that's what's going to save us as a collective, and that's what's going to save our planet.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Ooh, that's so powerful. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Um, so, well, also too, I don't want to keep you too long, but so to wrap up too, I just want to, let's just end with, because I feel like we've talked about it a little bit, but just to give some practical steps. So we'll end with how how can we navigate the negative self-talk, because I feel like this is something that's is so common, is so normal. You're not alone out there if you have negative self-talk come up. It's part of being human. It's just learning how to navigate it, right, and keep moving forward, or understanding if we need to heal or move forward, or what is it we need to do within that negative self-talk to not consume ourselves with it. So what recommendations do you have when that negative self-talk comes up? To what can we do?
Yeah, so good. I think there needs to be some sort of release. If we resist it, it's just going to suppress, and it's going to keep coming back, and maybe even louder and worse. And I really love the idea of setting a ritual for this, a healing ritual or releasing ritual, because that shows ourselves and the body the honor that it deserves. And our bodies recognize that whenever we're in self-loathing and self-hatred, it again, it's this sympathetic, unhealthy spiral of survival that we may be in, and our bodies do not heal when we're not gentle with ourselves, when we don't love ourselves. And so lighting a candle, if that's your jam, getting a cup of whatever you like to drink. I mean, let this be comfortable, cozy. Let this ritual be special. And you can do this with the new or full moon, reflecting against cycles and nature. And I would write down these negative thought patterns, because they're patterns, they're grooves that my mind keeps falling into. And we do have neuroplasticity. We can change those thoughts. We can shift those to where they're not the main groove that our brain just keeps falling back into. So writing these negative thoughts down, recognizing them, it's okay to feel whatever comes up. Let it release. Maybe you cry. That's a great release, an energetic release of trauma and emotion. And also maybe tracing back those thoughts. Where did those come from? Was it something someone said when you were a child, or was it several things? Recognizing what is the root of this, so you can then recognize, oh, that's not true. My subconscious has taken this and ran with it and made it something entirely bigger than what the first situation or scenario was. Maybe, you know, it could have been anything. It could have been, yeah, anything. And so once you recognize that, where it came from and how untrue that is, then it's important to write an affirmation, the opposite of that negative thought pattern. And affirmations, I feel like it's really easy to downplay the power of affirmations. It's so easy to be like, oh yeah, affirmations, blah, blah, blah. But
Yeah.
seriously, they are so powerful and like life changing. And so writing an affirmation to negate each one of these thoughts that aren't true, and put those, I mean, repeat these affirmations, to even record yourself on your phone, put some, you know, music in the background and listen to it every single morning, write it everywhere. And every time you recognize these thoughts coming back, turn to your affirmation and repeat it, and start building that groove and making new neural pathways and connections in your brain. And it will change the way you feel. It will change the way you show up. It will begin to create a new dominant thought pattern, and it will change your life. So that's my practical step: sitting down, creating that ritual, and letting it out, feel it, face it, and let it go, release it, and move forward. Recognize who you are and step into it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's so funny that you brought that up. I was just having a conversation with a friend literally yesterday when I was talking to her about the power of affirmations. And it's like, it sounds so like blah, 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 generic, like kind of froofy, flu, whatever, but it is. And affirmations have come into my life like massively within the last year, I'd say, especially as I'm stepping into my purpose and my business. So, and it's literally the thing that keeps me going. I mean, my purpose keeps me going, but also to be able to believe in myself to keep going. It's like you have to be so grounded in yourself and
Yeah.
in your affirmations to step into the things that are scary and step
Yeah.
into the unknown. So I highly, affirmations are amazing. They
Yeah.
have changed my life, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. They're so
Yeah.
powerful.
And just one thing I wanted to add too, in regards to being hard on ourselves too, I feel like it's important to, sometimes we'll just be like, oh, I'm so hard on myself. Oh, I'm so hard on myself. Or I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. And I feel like if we're saying that, it's important to go back, actually reflect on why. Like, why are you feeling that? Because sometimes we'll just say
Mm,
it, we'll just say it, but it's like, why are we feeling that? And I feel like something that is very common that comes up with being hard on ourselves is, one, being too attached to timelines, and two, also comparison. I think those are two huge things that cause us to be like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. So when we can peel back and go underneath, like, okay, why am I saying this? What am I feeling? And go back to the why. And if we can understand that it's like, oh, I'm comparing myself, or I feel like, I really want to get this done by a certain time, oftentimes that's what's causing us to feel like we're not doing enough, right? So I
mhm.
just wanted to throw that in there too as well.
Yeah. That's so good. It
Yeah.
reminds me of my shoulds, you know, like I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And it's like, says who? Like what, you know? Where is that coming from? Like you said, your why, like what is this? And reframing all of that. Yeah, like we do get to create our reality, and it is our birthright to live in pleasure and ease and abundance. And we get in our mind and we hold ourselves back thinking that we don't deserve that. We're not worthy of that. We have to earn that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's a huge process of just coming into who we are. Like, what are our true beliefs? That's one of the biggest main things that I love to help people with in my coaching, is coming back to who we are, what are our own beliefs, what are our own desires, regardless of anything else. It's so important because sometimes we're so automatically programmed to just do, be in the masculine energy society and be in what everybody else is doing and compare ourselves to everybody else on Instagram, or whatnot. And so it's really coming back into who are we? What do we truly believe? So yeah. Well,
I
this
have
has been
one last
amazing.
quote
Yeah, absolutely.
that I want to share. I heard this yesterday and I was like, ooh, I need to write that down. I was listening to the Unruly Entrepreneur podcast with Andrea Crowder. And I think it's one of her most recent podcasts. And I forget the name of who she was interviewing, but they said self development is not self perfection, but self acceptance. And I was like, yes, it's just self acceptance, self
Yeah.
love, self acceptance. It's not this self perfecting or I have to reach this place and then I can show up how I want or then I, deserve this or then I'm good enough. It's like we're there. We already are intrinsically deserving and good enough.
Yes, I love that. That's beautiful. That self peace. Yeah, being at peace, inner
Yeah,
peace. Yeah, I love
yeah.
that. Well, thank you so much. This has been amazing. I could like
So
literally
good.
talk to you all day.
I
um,
know, so good.
yeah, is there any last thoughts you want to share? And then also, please feel free to share the best way to stay in touch with you and what you are putting into this world.
Yeah, thank you. I I could talk to you all day too, but yeah, I think we've covered a lot of good ground here. Um, the best way to keep up with me is probably on my Instagram, Megan Matters Yoga. I do have a web page where I have some online programs. I do a lot of things live in my community here, and I am working on a nervous system health course or program and a lot of other things connecting embodiment, a lot of pelvic health, because that is our root and our deepest connection of ourself. So I do a lot of things with that. Yeah, so keep in touch. I'm excited for what's to come.
Ooh, that sounds exciting. Awesome. Cool, cool. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I had so much fun with you and learned so much as well. And we will talk to you guys soon. And thank you to everybody that watched the live or is watching the replay.
Yeah, thanks to Dincy. Thanks for making this happen.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later. Bye bye.
Bye.